This is episode 17 with special guest, Dr. Mark Sircus. Welcome to My Kid Cures Cancer. My name is Ryan Sternagel, former regular guy turned dadcologist, cancer coach, and health advocate. Each week we'll talk to a new expert on a particular aspect of beating cancer or human optimization to bring you one step closer on your path to true health. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now let's dive into this valuable, life-saving information which you're not going to hear about in a mainstream hospital. Alright everybody, with all the competing theories on the origin of cancer and the best way to approach it from a metabolic perspective and all the exotic Amazonian herbs and the next breakthrough formulations to choose from, sometimes we can lose sight of the most basic elements or even know what those basics might be. Today's guest, however, is bringing us back to those basics and explaining just how powerful they can be, even all on their own. Dr. Mark Sircus, AC, OMD, DMP, is a prolific writer and author of some astounding medical and health-related books. Dr. Sircus's methods are based on medical science and long years of clinical experience, not only his own, but of doctors around the world who have been practicing brilliant medicine. His books are very heavily referenced, but the layperson finds little difficulty in understanding his presentation of medical topics. For years, Dr. Sircus has been researching into the human condition and into the causes of disease. He has distilled many of the divergent medical systems into a new form of medicine that he has coined natural allopathic medicine. And I think you guys are really going to get a kick out of this episode. Like I said in the intro, for me personally, it does take self-control not to just pass by the ultra simple or super inexpensive stuff for that matter in favor of more complicated protocols and more expensive ingredients under the assumption that they must be better. But I think this is a really good episode to complement last week's episode with Dr. Morse, who literally boils everything down to fruit and herbs. Dr. Sircus does mention a few more tools than that, but again, we're sticking with the really simple and really inexpensive theme here, which I really liked. We started off talking about the fungal connection to cancer, which was the reason I originally reached out to him, as he's written some great articles on the topic, but we quickly got into what I found to be even more interesting, was just how effective some of the most basic elements can be for even the most serious conditions, such as cancer. And when I say basic, I do mean basic. I'm talking about sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda. Magnesium and iodine were the three big ones. We also got into the importance of hydrogen and oxygen and some really cool ways of getting more of those into the body, and good old heat from a sauna or biomat, and how all of these things are not only critical to good health, but can be powerhouses in their own right at higher doses when it comes to cancer. With that, we are so glad you stopped by My Kid Cures Cancer, where it is our goal to bring all sides of the discussion on how to heal cancer and be truly healthy to the same table to give you one place to tune into for the most well-rounded perspective possible. This is a show for people going through cancer, by people going through cancer. Inspired by my wife Teddy and I's experience with childhood cancer, bringing our son Ryder back from a stage 4 cancer diagnosis to the happy, healthy little boy he is today. If you aren't dealing with cancer and want to keep it that way, this show will likely be a very good idea for you to listen to as well. We'll get to Dr. Sircus in a speedy fashion, but of course I am obligated to tell you first that you know the drill. The information you hear on this show is for just that, informational purposes only, and is not intended to be a substitute for medical diagnosis, treatment, or advice. Speaking of the sauna, I am excited to let you guys know that Sunlighten has made a very kind offer to all of our listeners. We've probably, of course, posted more pictures of Ryder and I in the sauna over the years than anything else on Facebook, and quite a number of you have gone on to purchase your own Sunlighten just from seeing us using ours. The folks over there reached out and wanted to do something very nice for any of you that would like to get one for your family going forward, and that is to give you $150 off of any of their saunas, which is awesome. We love ours. It's been through 2 house moves and countless spills inside, and it's still going strong. We just have their signature one, which is technically their one-person far infrared sauna, but Ryder and I fit into it side by side just fine. And 2 adults in there isn't bad either, as long as you like each other, I suppose, but they, of course, do have bigger sizes to choose from. So again, whenever you give them a call to figure out which one is right for you, just mention that you are a My Kid Cures Cancer listener and get your $150 off. It's as simple as that. We're really grateful to the Sunlighten folks for making this offer, and especially for all the support they gave us early on, long before there was a My Kid Cures Cancer, and they just wanted to do everything they could to help Ryder. It's certainly something we've never forgotten, and something I think all of you should know about too. Also, we've been getting a ton of great feedback on our Ultimate Healthy Home Checklist. People are really getting so much out of having everything you could possibly do to remove all health burdens from your home and trick it out to actually be enhancing yourself all the time, all in one place. If you haven't gotten that yet, mykidcurescancer.com/healthy-home is where to go to get it. And thank you to everyone on our mailing list that took the time to vote on what to actually call this thing. We were going back and forth between a couple different options and put it out to all of you to vote, and you have spoken quite unanimously, in fact, in favor of the Ultimate Healthy Home. So there it is. If you're not already on our mailing list, what are you waiting for? We have a lot of fun on there, and you get this cool checklist that everyone's talking about. So again, mykidcurescancer.com/healthy-home is where to go to get that done. Okay, with that, let's get to the interview. One disclaimer going into this: if you are watching on YouTube, this is the last you will see of a live person until I'm back for the outro. Dr. Sircus is down in Brazil, and apparently they do not have the same high-speed connections we do here in the good old US of A. We had to keep the video just to keep the connection alive, and there were a few glitches in the audio as well, but we did our best to clean everything up, and I think it came out all right. The information was certainly captivating. I think you guys are going to like this one. With that, here is Dr. Mark Sircus. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the My Kid Cures Cancer podcast. We have with us Dr. Mark Sircus. Mark, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, I'm looking forward to the conversation. I've gotten a lot out of your writings and such over the years, and it seems like you're a lot like me in your approach to where you like to get into as many peer-reviewed studies as you can, but you're not also afraid to throw in some holistic or alternative wisdom into your approach as well. It seems like kind of a best of both worlds type thing, and that's where I tend to lie as well. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. So where would you like to start?
I suppose, I certainly had an idea in mind for what to talk about. You're very big on sodium bicarbonate, magnesium, especially in the arena of cancer, maybe how that all ties back to fungus. So let's certainly get to that, but first, everyone's always likes to hear. I suppose I would like to hear. I don't even know, how did you originally get into natural health and such, and what have you been up to the past however many years you've been doing this?
Well, what I've been doing the last 10 years is very different than what I was doing before that. I was exposed to health through Christopher Hills when he started the Light Force Spirulina Company. So I was involved with spirulina, even though I wasn't really a health person. I was involved in a health company, and then there's a spiritual community, and I started learning deeper things. And one of my main specialties is communication psychology and color psychology, which is another name for perceptual psychology. So early in my career, I was much more into the spiritual stuff and emotional stuff, using pendulums to diagnose chakras and things like that. And then I went to got into massage. I learned in New York shiatsu, and that led me to Chinese medicine. So I became an acupuncturist, and one of the first certified acupuncturists in the United States. But I set up practice in Maine, not in Maine, in New Hampshire, and the medical board went after me for practicing medicine. I was doing acupuncture without a license.
Oh, yes.
So I eventually fought them in the state Senate, and nobody won, so I had to leave the state. And that kind of threw me away from medicine or acupuncture. and into deeper stuff, into therapy. I developed a process called Hypno Trance Therapy. I had a few women, one after another, came to me who had been either sexually abused or raped. And I developed this trance therapy where I'd put the woman into a trance and I would close my eyes, listen to my own instructions, go into a trance with them. And so then we would go, I put them right into their hearts and they go right back to the trauma and we process and process and process. And that had a fundamental effect on me. And then I left for Brazil 26 years ago, 1991. And that's my life here is another story. And I've had like 2 incarnations here already. And bottom line, to catch people up with who I am or who I became. 14 years ago, my 3rd child was born, and I went to do research on vaccines. The day after he was born, and in 2 months, I wrote a book called. It's now called Terror of Pediatric Medicine, which is all about vaccines, and I'm totally against vaccines. And I came crashing into the world, from left field about vaccines. And, vaccines are a very nasty subject. It's, the title of the book, The Terror of Pediatric Medicine, just says, the whole trip. It's just, in my book, it's one of the most deepest fundamental forms of terrorism, including pharmaceutical terrorism, is one of the nastiest forms of terrorism. And but the universe kind of saved me. I was looking at vaccines, and it's a nasty subject, and it's a fight, and it's a fight, and it's always a losing battle. And I just stumbled across a product called magnesium oil. And I ended up writing a book about magnesium. I wrote 2 books about magnesium. One's called Transdermal Magnesium Therapy, and that put me on the medical map of the world. And then I have one, The Ultimate Heart Medicine, Magnesium. And from there, I came like a herd of elephants crashing back from this whole fight about vaccines into hard medicine. And instead of, I was, considered the magnesium man. But then I went into bicarbonate. I'm not the only doctor who's written about magnesium, a book, but I'm the only doctor who's written about sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. And that was a story how I got into that. And then right after I finished that, I went into iodine, and I wrote a book about iodine, and then a book about, I guess it's the only book right now currently on the market about selenium. And what happened with the magnesium, and then of course with bicarbonate and iodine, is these are emergency room medicines or intensive care medicines. And I built a medical model based on these emergency medicines or intensive care medicines. And a few years later, I found out even the selenium, there was a company makes injectable selenium. And the kind of selenium I used, there was a famous doctor in New York, a surgeon, and he used to inject selenium for cancer treatments. So I had my model, and all of these medicines, especially magnesium, if you're having a heart attack and they give you every medicine they have in their stock room, pharmaceutical, and they don't work, then they go to the magnesium, and it usually works. So it's a kind of substance that if you have another 60 seconds to live, if you inject, you can snap a person right out of it. So what I'm doing is, instead of just using these medicines when there's a 30, 60 seconds, person's going, is the only way they use that medicine, the magnesium chloride or magnesium sulfate. Well, I apply it instead of injecting it, which you can still do. You can do intravenous, but if somebody has stage 3, 4, 5 cancer, or any disease actually, you use high amounts of this substance every day, all day. And you can take it orally, you can nebulize it in, you can put things on your skin, magnesium on your skin, iodine on your skin. Take baths in these substances, especially bicarbonate and magnesium. So I intensively apply these sodium bicarbonate. How do they use that in the emergency room? Well, if you're dying because your blood is frying, meaning it's turning acid, which is the last thing. Usually your whole body can be, in your cells and your fluids, acid, but the blood will steal every mineral in the cells just to stay balanced. But when it starts frying, what's the answer? They pump in sodium bicarbonate.
Yeah, and you
But it's the only time they use it.
Only have a few minutes to stay alive once your blood turns acidic, something like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's or when you're having a heart attack, the magnesium is critical. And if you provide it, the heart responds. There's no better medicine for the heart than magnesium. So I went from these essential medicines, like vitamin C. There's a case in Australia. A guy was dying, and the family forced the hospital. They went to a judge, forced them to give IVs of vitamin C, a high dose, and the guy was definitely dying, and the family was desperate. And as soon as they started giving the IVs, turned the guy around, and he left the hospital. He was fine. So even vitamin C, even that's not listed as any kind of emergency room medicine, has cases for it. And then, of course, I kept expanding. Now, what's the newest thing is hydrogen water, and hydrogen gas. The original research started coming out in 2008 or 2007, and now in Japan it's a big thing. I guess in China it's starting also. You can put pills in water, and now they're making machines like oxygen machines, making hydrogen machines, and you breathe it. And in Japan they just licensed IVs with hydrogen. And what's different about hydrogen is it's the smallest thing there is. H2, it's the smallest molecule. So it's an antioxidant like vitamin C, but it's like 171 times smaller. So it's a kind of thing, or substance that goes everywhere in the body, especially where you need it. But it goes even down into the DNA, goes through the blood-brain barrier. I mean, it just goes to your skin. It goes everywhere. And it's like the perfect antioxidant. It turns one of the oxidative molecules into water, so there's zero toxicity. And I'm drinking a lot every day.
So yeah, that's on the molecular hydrogen note. Where I always hear about that is with the alkaline water ionizers. I hadn't really heard about molecular hydrogen and available in any other medium until coming across you and seeing the what is it, the powder, the tablets you can put in the water and that sort of thing. Are you a fan of the ionizer machines, or do you intentionally avoid those and that's why you're going with these tablet deals?
Well, I've always avoided the ionizers. I was big into magnesium bicarbonate. Going really after the minerals. Even the company I'm working with that sells the tablets and these new inhalators for hydrogen, same company had the ionizers. They've been selling ionizers forever, and saunas and everything. And they even sent me one. I never even connected it. I never connected it. Never felt motivated for it. Well, of course, I'm here in the mountains and the heart of South America, and I have pure water to drink. So,
all right, well, very good. Yeah, and that being said, I had initially reached out to you because I was, I forget what episode we're on the podcast, maybe 15, something like that, and still have not really addressed the fungal component to cancer, and I certainly don't want to pigeonhole you if you have a broader view of cancer than just fungus. I know there's a lot of people who cancer is a fungus and that's it, and there's no two ways about it. I don't know if you're one of those people or not, but I do know you wrote a very good you've written a few very good things about the fungal connection to cancer, and also just how they tie into sodium bicarbonate and magnesium and all that stuff. So I guess all that being said, Mark, what is your view of cancer as far as what it is? And if you want to get broader than just the fungus, and then if you do get broader the fungus, I suppose bring it back to the fungal connection, if all that made sense.
Yeah. You don't have to be a fanatic about it. And, the way I get around it is either, sure, cancer could be defined as a fungus, or that in late stage cancer, it's almost impossible to have late stage cancer and not have a fungus. So they can go together.
And opportunistic, yeah.
I do say the similarity between cancer cells and fungus cells, what's the most important common denominator, which defines the nature of cancer, is that the metabolism has changed to fermentation. Both fungus cells and cancer cells are not making much ATP. They're not using the mitochondria. The mitochondria are kind of suffocated because of lack of oxygen. And if you're having lack of oxygen, you're having usually a lack of carbon dioxide, which is a key thing and what brings you to sodium bicarbonate. So low oxygen, changing the cells to fermentation, brings us into the same ballpark. We're playing baseball in the same park. We're combating cells that are using fermentation and high levels of glucose. So we can argue all day and use words, but that's a common denominator to both types of cells. Then we go to the other end. What causes cancer? Well, there's a very eminent physician who said in front of a lot of doctors that he believes between 20 to maybe 40% of cancer is caused by an infection. Infections, go through different things. I mean, you can start out with virus, you can start out with bacteria, and as things get worse, well, things develop. There's different theories for this, but basically, nobody should be surprised when it turns to fungus infection. Then we could go another side. Antibiotics. Doctors have been, like madmen. The whole medical industrial complex, quite almost the mad use of antibiotics. And what's the consequence of using antibiotics? Not just antibiotic-resistant infections, and some antibiotics just destroy people. I mean, some antibiotics just destroy people. But antibiotics also decrease the ability of bodies to eliminate mercury and create this situations where fungus infections grow. So when you're dying, part of the death process physiologically is a late stage infection, and late stage is fungus. When things go too far and you're losing the battle for life, it's for many reasons even healthy people have fungus in the body. You take an antibiotic and it gets out of control, candida. So whichever way you want to think, I mean, the way doctors think, they don't think. I mean, they don't use their brains to think about cancer. I don't think so, because they can't even look at the multidimensional aspects of cancer and what leads to cancer. They're like, have like a horse coming out of, the gates with blinders on, race horses. And they just look at the way they were, oh, DNA. Well, everybody knows it's not just DNA. Or if it is the DNA, it's also the cell, the environment of the cell, the cytoplasm, what's going on in the mitochondria. It's not just DNA. I mean, this is their ignorance. When they don't understand anything, oh, it's just the genetics. It's kind of childish at this point. Okay, then we change to, here, what I'm going to say next, for me, again, shows just incredible ignorance out there. When we look about oxygen and that cancer is low oxygen, well, what's the first thing we should look at in a patient? How fast they're breathing. The faster you breathe, the less oxygen you get. So if you're breathing very fast, you're not getting oxygen, you're feeding your cancer or causing the cancer. In the medical textbooks today, they say right around about 12 breaths a minute is about normal. 50 years ago, they said about 8.
Really?
Where everything's faster paced now. Everyone's more anxious, stressed out, and whatever. It's just things have accelerated and are breathing with it. And then you go up to 20. 25. Just fast breathing. People don't breathe. When you breathe fast, you're not breathing through your stomach. So you're breathing through the chest, superficially, getting less oxygen. Bottom line, the faster you breathe, the less oxygen you get. So if you're breathing at 25 breaths a minute and you don't change that, it doesn't matter what kind of treatment you're going to give the person. You may help them for a while, but it's like flaming, a fire with a fan or something. You put more oxygen. The faster you breathe, the cancer loves it. So how many doctors you hear telling people breathing? And I have a $50 machine called the Breath Slim. In Russia, it was called the Froth device. It was created for asthmatics. And it's very easy to use. And it just, you breathe through this tube, and you breathe out through this tube, and you blow bubbles through water. And the water puts resistance on the breath, and it slows your exhale. So bicarbonate does the same thing, except you don't have to do the breathing. If you breathe slower, you hold more carbon dioxide inside. Usually when you exercise, you breathe faster because you got more carbon dioxide to get rid of. But if you're breathing fast and you're sitting at a chair, you're getting rid of the carbon dioxide. You're not even creating it. You're not getting exercise. So it's a big problem is deficiency of carbon dioxide. What happens when you take sodium bicarbonate? It turns to carbon dioxide in the stomach.
So
That's why it works.
Could you expound on the carbon dioxide bit a bit, I suppose? So I think, most people's perception of carbon dioxide is, you take in oxygen and then, you exhale. Carbon dioxide is almost a waste product, but you're seeming to indicate that we don't actually have enough of it in the bodies.
Yeah, it's let's call it a holy waste. If you take a tank of oxygen, they have to put carbon dioxide in it. You can't. It's poison without it. Oxygen, pure oxygen. Cells, plant cells, they eat carbon dioxide. So this whole thing about the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it's all a bunch of lies. For instance, the cell walls of the arteries and veins. What are they sensitive to? They're sensitive to carbon dioxide levels. When carbon dioxide levels go down, the cell wall, the vessel walls contract, putting up blood pressure. When you have good carbon dioxide levels, then they dilate, which makes sense too, of course. When exercising, you need more blood flow. So the body uses carbon dioxide. It needs a minimal level of carbon dioxide to be healthy. You need a minimum amount of carbon dioxide to get oxygen. Because when you don't have enough CO2, what happens? The oxygen dissociation curve from the red blood cells gets worse, goes south. So oxygen doesn't get on and off the red blood cells as rapidly. So it's a necessary waste of, it's a necessary gas, but our body controls it. So we breathe. We don't breathe because we need more oxygen. We breathe because the carbon dioxide levels are going up. That stimulates breathing. But if you're breathing too fast and you're not doing anything, then you're dropping your levels. So this is actually the way my whole medicine is structured. These things are essential. There's no getting around them. There's no getting around oxygen. There's no getting around that the most important thing in life, the most important thing, is your next breath. Because if you don't take it, you're dead in 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Some people longer. So how you breathe and the dynamics of what's going on with the carbon dioxide and the oxygen, it's a fundamental part of treatment. That's why sodium bicarbonate and breathing two together worked on such a fundamental level against fungus and against cancer.
Quick break to tell all of you to hold your breath when you open your dishwasher after you run it. If there's still steam or vapor that comes out in there, that is chlorine gas you're breathing in, along with whatever other toxins were vaporized in the heat when you were running it from your unfiltered water. This is really where the value of a whole home water filter comes in, which aside from the well we're drilling at the new house we're building, we will certainly be installing, but for the time being, we ourselves do not have a whole home filter, which is why we only run the dishwasher at night when no one's around. And we also keep a couple windows open to keep that area well ventilated. And if for whatever reason we do have to run it during the day, we actually stick our air filter right next to it and we keep our distance. And this, as I alluded to earlier, is one of just dozens of things you need to be aware of in your home, along with easy solutions to keep your family safe in our ultimate healthy home checklist. It doesn't at all need to be an overwhelming thing. Just take it 1 or 2 items a week, but I can certainly promise you, you'll feel a whole lot better knowing exactly what you need to work on rather than just guessing or making changes as they come to you. So again, head over to mykidcurescancer.com/healthy-home and we will send that document to you straight away. All right, let's get back to Dr. Sircus. There's a lot of information on sodium bicarbonate and cancer out there that, it always gets, it comes up in the research a lot, and it's such a simple thing that I think the tendency is to almost pass it by. So I really want to make sure to, get all the knowledge I can out of you on sodium bicarbonate in particular, since you have read into it so much. Is there any other, connection between sodium bicarbonate and cancer that you think it's important for folks to know about, in terms of why it would be a good thing for someone going through cancer to be on sodium bicarbonate?
Well, sodium bicarbonate is the best. I mean, Dr. Simoncini in Rome, who got, because of his work, I ended up writing my book, but also because the United States Army, like 20, 30 years ago, had sodium bicarbonate in their Army manuals, field hospital manuals for uranium toxicity, for clearing the kidneys of uranium toxicity. So it's that when I found that out, that's when I got motivated to write a book about it. It wasn't just for cancer, it was just not just Simoncini. But sodium bicarbonate, it's a different languaging, but a very common one. It's the best alkalizing substance there is. If you want to turn something alkaline, sodium bicarbonate is like the safest and most powerful way of delivering that. And what is offered to a cancer patient by becoming alkaline? Well, body tissues can use more oxygen if they're alkaline. Again, we go back to oxygen, alkalinity, and energy, cell energy. Most people don't look at it this way, but when you look at pH, which is a measure of acidity and alkalinity, and cell voltage. cell energy. pH and cell voltage, or voltage in general, is the same thing. That you measure, whichever way you measure, you're measuring both because they're the same thing.
I didn't
When you
realize they were
increase,
correlated like
yeah,
that.
when you increase, yeah, when you increase, I didn't know either. Dr. Tennant taught me about this. Jerry Tennant, he's into using electrons for healing, and that's also my protocol. And I also use photons, down to pure light, and healing with photons. Different ways of doing that. So you can go even smaller than hydrogen, and go beyond the physical matter and using light. But what was I going to say? What were we just talking about?
Just bicarbonate and
Where were we?
alkalinity.
Oh yeah. So you alkalize. You also increase cell energy. So increasing the body's ability to do whatever it needs to do. The weaker you are, the less, the weaker the immune system is. So let's change another basic thing. Body temperature. What's the story with body temperature? A lot of people have low body temperature. So many people have thyroid conditions, and that creates low body temperature. Or people are iodine deficient, and we could talk about deficiencies of certain things causing cancer, because deficiencies can lead to infections. I mean, there's always a tie-in. Body temperature. It's a key thing because you can write a mathematical graph between core body temperature and immune system strength. Nobody beats cancer without a good, reasonable immune system. If you're cold, you can know that by taking your temperature, or your hands and feet tend to be cold. Cold people know they're cold. What do? You can go out and spend $100,000 and take some fancy pharmaceutical to stimulate your immune system. Of course, there'll be some toxic response in the body to it, or you can buy a biomat. You can buy a mattress. You put it on your bed or the patient's bed. Every hospital bed should have one. And you turn it on and you go to sleep. And it radiates light, infrared light, into the body, and it warms the body. And if you use it aggressively, you can create fever. And if you create fever, you're putting the immune system to overdrive. And in the end, it's the immune system that beats the cancer. So going back to the beginning, tying all these things together, it's using fundamental things. With a car, it's very simple. You need gas, you need water, you need oil, and you need electricity. You need a battery, and that's it. And you have to have, of course, the car and the engine, but they're essential things. One of them breaks down. You don't provide one of those things, the car's going to break down. And changing the subject, going into nutritional deficiencies, of course, cause cancer. We have so much proof, so much science that says that when the selenium is low in the soil, or the magnesium is low, or iodine. There's another whole subject. I just finished my second edition of my iodine book. Iodine is an incredible thing to treat cancer. And of course, Dr. Simoncini used it, to treat the skin cancer. He never thought, I talked to him, he never thought about using it orally, that you can take a lot internally. But, forever they've been using it on the skin, and he uses it for skin cancer. One of the basic causes of thyroid cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and prostate cancer is deficiency of iodine, because these organs concentrate iodine. And what is iodine good for? Iodine's good for killing everything. Viruses, bacteria, fungus. If you put enough iodine, that's why they use it by the gallon forever in hospitals. They paint everything, get a cut or anything on the skin. So iodine is very important for the immune system response, because having it It's, well, appropriate if you're sufficient in iodine, and probably 90% of Americans are not. Dr. Brownstein, David Brownstein, in Detroit, has measured 6,000 patients, and like 96% are iodine deficient. This is in Detroit, near Detroit. So iodine is, what are you going to use when you get an antibiotic-resistant infection? The smiles of the doctor is going to help you. You got to flood the body with iodine, which is what they did 100 years ago before they had the antibiotics. You get syphilis, they flood your body with iodine.
Yeah, it's amazing what you once you start going back in time, and all the mainstream just regular doctors all sound like naturopathic or alternative guys, because they're all using these basic substances before they had something else to use. How about magnesium? I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but yeah, dive into all things magnesium and cancer.
Well, I'm one of the few people who's written about magnesium and cancer. Again, there's science to suggest that deficiency in magnesium can lead to cancer. But why would a cancer patient, in a rational way, use a lot of magnesium? And I mean a lot. It's because it's like the oil in a car. It's like an oil to almost all physiology. It's so basic. It's involved in like 350 enzyme reactions, cell wall permeability, insulin receptivity, insulin production. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. So when you're thinking about fighting cancer, you're thinking, you're fighting sickness. It's a lack of health. So, what's the cure to ill health or disease is health. So, magnesium is like putting the oil in the car. You're going to go up into the mountains, you better put in some nice oil in the car so the car runs good, so the car doesn't break down. So if you want to fight cancer, and you want your immune system to be stronger and all your physiological processes to be increased, including ATP production and cell wall permeability, the cell, brain, blood barrier, just the list is endless. Well, of course, you're going to take magnesium. So it's basic. It's so basic.
Yeah. DNA repair. It seems like I learn about a new benefit of magnesium every day.
Even DNA repair.
Yeah. What are your go-to means for getting more magnesium in the body?
Say again?
Oh, just how do you like to get magnesium in the body? Yeah.
Well, it's changed. I mean, my favorite way through the years is magnesium massage. Having, and I used to get massage like 5 times a week for years. I teach my staff to do it. And so I was just taking it in that way. I finally lost my massage therapist, so I've been without that. I've been taking more baths, taking magnesium and sodium bicarbonate baths. And my newest way, in terms of oral, is, and I just published last week about it, high dose hydrogen, magnesium, and bicarbonate therapy. And I use 2 products. One is called pH Adjust, which is a formula I was looking for, for somebody to make for me for years. It's sodium bicarbonate, potassium bicarbonate, and magnesium carbonate. So with one product, and it's very inexpensive, you're getting, alkalizing the body, and with each dose, getting magnesium. Then I'm using this new hydrogen product. I've tried many and promoted through the last year or 2 years, so, some of the newer products. And finally, they just came out, and I've been experimenting with it, with a product that You just throw the tablets in an open glass instead of a closed glass under pressure, and in 3 minutes it just fizzes, and then you just drink it down. And with each tablet is another 80 milligrams of magnesium. So for somebody who is really, water is something we need. We need it, like good breathing. We need water all the time. We have to take fluids. So what the fluid is you give is going to make a lot of difference. So hydrogen, bicarbonate, potassium, and lots of magnesium, and you just in the water. And of course, you add the iodine. It's a couple times a day, and selenium. There's a lot of things you take with water. If you're in the hospital and you're on a feeding tube, you can just put it in through the feeding tube. So this is how today I'm taking a lot of hydrogen, these these tablets you put in the water, big glass, and I take the pH adjust once a day. So, but you could do that 3 times a day, and then you could do the hydrogen 5 times a day. So you're flooding the body with hydrating. Of course, the hydrogen really hydrates, makes sure you're really hydrating, and getting a lot of magnesium. You get up to a gram, almost a gram a day that way. If you take 10, yeah, you take 10 tablets of this hydrogen product, that's 800 milligrams of really good liquid magnesium.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was looking at that product on your website. It was interesting, and I was wondering. I didn't know you would just rolled that out. That was going to be one of my questions to you. Is why is that different than just regular sodium bicarbonate? Is that is there something special to it? But I guess the gist is you're just combining all these things you like into one product, and there's probably some synergies there within them, right?
Yeah, but it's more than that. With the pH adjust, it's very important getting potassium bicarbonate. I mean, sodium bicarbonate, people take sodium bicarbonate not for the sodium, but for the bicarbonate part. So sometimes it's good to not get less sodium. And so getting potassium bicarbonate, you're still getting the bicarbonate, but you're getting potassium, which is another fundamental substance that the body, needs.
I got you.
Needs. So you're getting less salt and getting the potassium and of course the magnesium. And it's also easier to drink than sodium bicarbonate. It's very salty. So this formula. It's also this is a big thing for me. Things have to be easy.
Yeah.
To do things for a long time. Because these same substances are like anti-aging. So you want to stay around a long time. Yeah, you do these substances forever. You do it for the rest of your life. You don't stop. You don't stop. Iodine. The world is becoming more radioactive every year. I mean, what happened with Fukushima and all the radioactive iodine that got let loose? If you don't have enough iodine in your body, forget about the infections. You start getting radioactive iodine gets absorbed into the thyroid. The body's desperate for anything that looks like iodine, including fluoride and bromide, which is in a lot of drugs. So there's a lot of, when it comes to cancer, there's a lot of things to think of. And what I did was take the strongest, most important thing and put them in like a list form. Okay, this is the first thing, second thing. These are fundamental things you should not skip over. Just like you shouldn't forget the water in the car or the oil. It's it's embarrassingly simple, actually.
Yeah, no, it's real good list you got there on your website, and we'll be sure to put links to all the products you mentioned in the notes to the show. I could certainly pick your brain forever. Did you mention you had another meeting in a couple minutes here?
Yeah, we still probably have at least 5 minutes. I'm not sure. I asked them to do 10 minutes after the hour, but we'll see what time they call.
All right,
So,
very good. Um, Well, on that note, I'll throw a couple more things at you. Yeah, you'd mentioned oxygen, and I saw a couple things on your website. What's Oh, actually, before oxygen, what was the question? Oh, Epsom salt or magnesium flakes or both or neither. As far as a bath's concerned for magnesium, I hear differing opinions on that all the time.
I mean, magnesium flakes or magnesium chloride is better than magnesium sulfate. It's more absorbable. That said, still magnesium sulfate, you're getting, of course, the magnesium, and for some people, the
Mag-
sulfur is, not MMS,
oh, MSM.
sulfur. Yeah, MSM.
Yeah,
The organic sulfur.
yeah,
Sulfur is another fundamental thing.
yeah.
Some people need to take sulfur, and they get a lot of mileage out of it because, well, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, mercury breaks sulfur bonds. Is the more toxic a person is, the more they're having problems with sulfur.
Yeah, no, I saw an interesting presentation a while back on, just a whole theory of cancer of how the glyphosate and all the pesticides and such have kind of broken our sulfate cycle inside the body, and it's cancer cells happen to produce sulfate, so maybe it's actually the body trying to produce what it needs by any means. It was pretty interesting. I don't know. There's a lot to learn out there.
And of course, you get this, like the new medicine, Doctor, what's his name? The German guy. I mean, his theory of medicine, it's kind of narrow, but it's deep. Is that all he sees most cancer, or I had a trouble with him from the beginning, is they say all cancer. They use that word all.
Yeah.
And I'm against the word all, from training from general semantics. It's just a dangerous statement. But he says when you have a shock, an emotional shock, somebody
event.
dies, that create these conflict complexes in the brain. My mentor, Christopher Hills, the guy who brought spirulina to the world, he defined cancer as a conflict between the imagination and the heart. When you're imagining going one way and your heart's going another, and there's a conflict. I could then see that too. So there's, deep reasons that our immune systems go down. This whole thing about just genetics is ridiculous. When we get very upset or break down or whatever, there's so many words you could use in psychology, but when we're in the essential conflict and in pain, our system stops running so good. Things don't work so well. And I just finished, I've been down here in Brazil for 26 years, and I just finished, could almost say today, because we just finished the bridge. I finished this incredible place I've created, building for 11 years. And today we finished building the bridge across the river, so it's finished. We're finished. And my original idea in constructing here, it's a paradise. I'm surrounded on 3 sides by 2 rivers, and original idea was a retreat center for cancer patients. I'm not looking so much forward to that, but internationally, what I put out, I am willing to, receive people here, but what for? To do the medicines, things we've been talking about. With this, you have to do at home no matter what. And part of what my writings are, even for people who want to do other treatments or even chemotherapy, which of course I don't recommend. They use medical marijuana instead of that. But what I tell people, I'm getting lost here. I lost my point.
I forget where you're going, or I was trying to figure out where you're going with the bridge, but I wasn't quite there yet myself.
So I only put out for people to come here if they want to do the deeper work. do the work. This is my specialty, is the psychology, the
I
spirituality,
got you.
looking at oneself. Is otherwise you don't. There's no. I'm not. You don't need to come here to do what you can do at home.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
and
what I'm able to
we're
do these things at home.
yeah, we're certainly all about just everything you can do at home on the show, and everything that we put out is to try to, try to give people as much power to do as much good for themselves as they can right in their own home. Um, yeah, I think was it Dr. Hammer, the German guy?
Dr. Hammer. Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. Hammer.
Yeah. Um, I got a couple more minutes here. What are your go-tos for increasing oxygen levels in the body, since that's been touched on a couple times?
I'm experimenting just this last week or two with liquid oxygen, dropped, put in your mouth. So I really can't comment about that.
That's
But
that's a subject that interests me, but yeah, I need to do more research on it myself.
I have a book on oxygen. It's published in New York, and it actually saved my life. Is this equipment? It's called Exercise with Oxygen. It's not for everybody because if you're dying and you're in bed in the hospital, it's not. You need to be able to exercise. But I went the I almost died a week before I got this system. And what it is, you have a bicycle or a trampoline or whatever. You have an oxygen concentrator, and you have this big bag hanging on the wall that you pump the oxygen into this big bag. So you don't need a big concentrator. You can get a cheaper one. And you fill up the bag. Sometimes take about an hour and a half or 2 hours, and you have like the 600 up to 900 liters of oxygen. And then coming out of the concentrator is a little tube, but coming out of this big bag is this big tube, and you put a big mask on, and you get on a bicycle or anything and get your heart beating and your lungs going. And you start breathing in this whole reservoir of oxygen, and it's like an avalanche of oxygen. And that's, for 20 years they were doing this in Europe, but they only used the oxygen concentrator. Of course, you had to have a big machine, like a 10 liters per minute. But you'd be breathing, say if you were using 50, you'd only get 10 from the machine, and you'd be breathing 40. So the oxygen levels are low. But with this new system called Live O2, you breathe unlimited oxygen for 15 minutes, and it's just like a afterburner or like a ramjet in a jet plane. It just rams the oxygen into your capillaries and takes the inflammation out. Of course, oxygen is alkaline. It's you can't be deficient in oxygen, which many people are, and be alkaline. They go together.
So on the I've heard about the oxygen with exercise before. It's something that interests me, but just your comment about the comparison to an oxygen concentrator. I mean, even if you were to get rid of the exercise component, I mean, I know a lot of people, are just using oxygen concentrators to breathe into them to get more oxygen. Are you saying that even just, skip the exercise part, that just doing the bag method would be more, more efficacious than trying to breathe straight from a larger concentrator?
It would be more, yeah, it'd be more stronger,
Yeah.
even without the exercise.
Yeah.
You'd be breathing more oxygen. Of course, you wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, you can breathe through a concentrator all night long,
Yeah.
all day. But through a bag, you're going to breathe. You're going to get it. Even if you put, well, the biggest one now, I haven't seen it yet, but 900 liters. So sure, it'd be 900 you can consume, and while you're consuming that 900, the machine would still be putting out 10 per minute. So yeah, it would be. You can just do some exercise even in bed, to get the heart rating going up a little bit. Every bit. When I got my machine, I had almost died the week before, literally, and I didn't have until the next day the bicycle, and I could hardly walk, and I turned the machine on, blew up the bag, put the mask on, and I started running for my life.
Quite literally.
Literally to pull myself out of it.
Was sorry, but I don't know if you mentioned, was this cancer or was it something else you were fighting?
No, something I had. Yeah, it was it started with GERD, with like acid reflux, and it got really bad. And it got so bad, I finally took a pain medication. The pain medication worked perfectly. It took away all the pain, but it just destroyed the tissues that were in pain. I was in pain, and then the pain was gone, but I couldn't even walk to the bathroom. I was just like totally dizzy and weak, and it was pretty strong. So it was like became an ulcer in the upper stomach and the solar plexus. My whole problem was in the solar plexus.
Yeah, but the oxygen with exercise knocked it out. Huh? That's or at least
Well,
got you on the right
it
track.
took me out of the hole,
Yeah.
and it was strong enough. I'm like the worst patient. So
Well,
it's
good stuff. I have two questions that I always ask everyone at the end of the interview, and the first would be, and I usually warn them, or at least sometimes I warn everyone, but sometimes I forget. I didn't warn you, but I'm sure you'll come up with something good. If you had to boil everything you knew down into three golden rules, and those three golden rules would be how to stay healthy and disease free, or possibly become healthy and disease free. What would those three rules be?
well, to get the best water with all the minerals you need. Slow breathing, getting because you get control of your breathing. It's not just carbon dioxide and oxygen, but your whole center changes. Everything like meditation. It's just breathing is fundamental. So agua and all the minerals, breathing, and the third one. Well, I love using light. So I love like the biomat. I love, getting into bed with an infrared mattress. Have this new thing, nasal, using laser infrared. You just stick it in your nose and you treat your blood. I do that every day. There's a lot of things. It's always been hard. It's like the number one, two, and three. Magnesium used to be always number one.
Yeah.
Now it's hydrogen. It's small, it's more basic because it goes in the water. But you go, of course, with number two, the magnesium and the bicarbonate. So the top 10 in my protocol are all very fundamental
Yeah,
things.
yeah, no, that's what I do like about your your list, your protocol. It's pretty black and white, and you do a good job of covering the bases. That's for sure. Um,
And I do have to go.
no problem, no problem. If you want to leave everyone with just a final thought on yeah, just cancer in general, that'd be great. Or skip out
Well,
right now if you like.
whether you have cancer or you don't have cancer, you have to take care of yourself. So many people are getting cancer, you got to start treating it before you get it. So, it's my protocol. It's why it's good for anti-aging. It's a universal thing. So if you want to, person want whether you have cancer or not, if you want to live longer, you just can't take that for granted anymore. The world's too toxic. There's too many things going wrong. We need all the strength we have or can manage to accumulate. We need to take care of ourselves. We don't take care of ourselves. Maybe this has always been the case, but it's certainly the case now. Stress levels, breathing, it goes right into the stress. The slower you breathe, the more you calm down. It's very important in a very stressful world that's going crazy. Things are just getting worse. They're not getting better.
I've been
So
breathing
take care.
Been breathing slower just talking to you, and I appreciate the reminder. Dr. Mark Sircus, thank you so much for coming on. Mark, do you want to let everyone know, if they want to find out more about what you're doing, follow all things Dr. Sircus, where would you point them?
Dr. Sircus, SIRCUS.com, drsircus.com. And from there, I have over 1,000 essays on my site. I give away and make things as easily understandable as possible. So my books are for. My site is very clear. I think it's very clear now. The protocol, the basic approach and the reason for it. So thank you very much for having me, and it's been a pleasure.
Indeed. Right back at you. Mark. You have yourself a good day. Baking soda, magnesium, and iodine. Oh my, talk about an inexpensive protocol. We of course touched on a few other things, but none of it was that expensive, which is really nice to know an option like this exists that anyone can afford. And I shouldn't even really say option. Like Dr. Sircus said in the interview, all this stuff is really fundamental to health. The only question is, what dosage do you need it at? Speaking of money, thank you so much to Tabitha, who just stepped up on our Patreon account at the fighter level of $10 per month to support our efforts in bringing this information to you here at My Kid Cures Cancer. Because while it will always be free to watch, listen to, or read, it is certainly not free to make in time or treasure. I wrapped up writing the notes for what I was going to say in this intro and outro at around midnight last night and got up at 4 to record it before my day job for just a little example of what it takes to make all this happen for you. So, if you're getting value out of these conversations and want to see them not only continue but get better as more resources has a way of enabling, you can join Tabitha, who again is super awesome. Thanks again, Tabitha. That was so sweet of you and means so much to us. You can join her at mykidcurescancer.com/crowd sponsor, all one word, to be part of the solution. And on that note, I hope you did get some valuable information from Dr. Sircus out of this episode. I know I did. If you know someone that could benefit from this information, please share it with them or share it out with all of your friends. Either way, mykidcurescancer.com/mark-Sircus is where to go for that, along with the article summary to this episode and links to any and all resources that were mentioned there. And Sircus is spelled S-I-R-C-U-S. Lastly, if you're listening to this show because you have a little superhero that needs you to help them win the fight, don't spend too much time banging your head against the wall trying to guess at the best way to go about all of this. We've been at this, researching and interviewing experts and figuring out how to make it all work with the kid for years now, and can really shorten the learning curve for you. A lot of parents are having a lot of really neat things to say about our coaching program, and you can read all about those real-life people's messages and learn all about the program at mykidcurescancer.com/coaching. Lord willing, we'll be back next week with the one and only Robin Openshaw, or you may know her from her mega health site, Green Smoothie Girl, where we'll be talking about the vibration of life, so to speak, and why it would be a good idea to pay attention to it, along with some very powerful personal experiences Robin has had with cancer and natural healing in her family. So be sure to check that one out next Monday, which, if you haven't already figured it out, is when we release new episodes. I just realized I should probably be making that more clear. Music was provided by the Fat Rat and the Tasty Network, and all editing was done by my lovely wife, Teddy Sternagel. Happy birthday month, babe. That's all for me. This is Ryan Sternagel, signing out for now. God bless and Godspeed.